Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And speaking of starting, it's right now time to start Locked on MLB.
You are Locked on MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked on MLB, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Where's your team every day? This is the daily podcast where we talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you're reading my lower third and you're watching us on the YouTubes, you know you can call me Sully. I'm an Emmy-nominated television producer who appeared on HBO Sports, ESPN2, way back in the day. I've been a film director. I've been a stand-up comic, but I've mainly been a baseball podcaster. I've been doing that for well over a decade right now. And I've been over here at the Locked On Podcast Network since the 2019 season. So this is my fourth full season of doing that. That's a presidential term. Please don't impeach me. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods. Same handle for Instagram and Twitter. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Well, a few weeks ago, I did a very cruel thing. And some may scream, and some may say I should go be arrested. I praised the St. Louis Cardinals to the point where I said, you know what? I think they're going to win the World Series. Now, usually when I say something like that, it is the kiss of death, and they fall apart. But so far, that hasn't happened to the St. Louis Cardinals. And they won again tonight in a game that may still be going on. I don't know. I thought this ghost runner on second crap was supposed to speed up the games. But I digress. I hope I haven't offended St. Louis Cardinal fans by overpraising the team. And I'm dying to find out. So the only way I could find out is to bring on the relatively new host of Locked On Cardinals and now a friend of the podcast. It's JD Hafron. How you doing, man? Welcome to the Locked On Podcast Network, and welcome to this is your first guest appearance here on Locked On MLB.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here tonight, Sully. Thanks for taking some time out and let me come on. Thank you for picking the Cardinals for going to the World Series. That was nice. A lot of my listeners actually thought it was cool of you and not a kiss of death, to be honest.
Okay. God, you Cardinal fans are so nice. Is that Daryl Porter's uniform hanging behind you? What's going on back there?
That is actually it's the alternate version of the powder blues that they wore back in the 80s, but
right.
It is not a Daryl Porter.
That's why I went Daryl Porter, because he is in a unique fraternity. I don't know how many I can do off the top of my head right now, who won the League Championship Series and World Series MVP in the same year.
Yeah, 1982.
82. See where I could one who shouldn't have, which was Livan Hernandez, won the League Championship Series MVP, which is fine, but he won the World Series MVP with an ERA over 5. No, that should not have happened. It should have gone to Moises Alou, who, if you look back at that World Series, absolutely dominated and had a spectacular World Series. He should have won. Welcome to Locked On Moises Alou, where we talk about the St. Louis Cardinals. I get distracted by uniforms there. But the fact of the matter is, look, I'm going to boil it down to this. The Cardinals fell out of the playoffs at the end of July. They were behind the 3 wildcard teams at the time. The 3 wildcard teams were Atlanta, Milwaukee, and San Diego. They were also behind Philadelphia. So, Milwaukee led the division. Atlanta, San Diego, and Philadelphia were the 3 wildcard teams. Mm-hmm. And St. Louis had fallen behind, and the Giants were hot on their tail. Remember the Giants? they were a winning team.
They were a contender for a little bit.
They could have been a contender. That day that it fell out was the 30th of July. So basically the end of July, they had fallen out of the wild card, and they had stayed out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
After that day, including today's marathon, they have won as many games as any team in baseball. They have the same number of wins as the LA Dodgers, and the Cardinals just have one more loss. So the Cardinals have won 23 out of their next 30 games. 23-7.
Yeah.
Los Angeles was 23-6. Okay, so one separating the loss column, but the Cardinals have been doing it at an unbelievable clip, and they've done so by, I think, winning the trade deadline, and Albert Pujols getting a nice boost. I know the good folks at Barstool are suspicious of it, and you know what? I say this: I don't care what Albert's doing; it's making for some great theater. So keep doing what you do, Albert. And if it's shady, just keep it on the secret, because we want to have some fun. Everything's going right for the Cardinals.
Yeah, they've I mean, I'll be the first to admit they haven't played the toughest schedule, and they'll continue to play a pretty weak schedule. A lot of games against NL Central teams, not named the Milwaukee Brewers, because the rest of the division is pretty brutal. Let's be honest. The Pirates, the Cubs, the Reds, they're not good teams. They're bottom 5 in all of baseball. And so it's an easier schedule for them. But when they had to play the tougher teams like the Yankees before they kind of, hit hard times.
They swept them.
They were able to take them out, and then they just beat the Braves 2 out of 3, which was their real test in the month of August, where we were trying to decide whether or not what we were seeing, was it real? Was it a mirage? And to be able to beat the Braves, who have been as hot as anybody as well, and beat them the way they did it, where they were able to come back and after being down like 3-4 runs in games and do it, it made a lot of us really believe that this team, they have a chance. If and when they get to the playoffs, they have a chance. And you're totally right. When it all started at the trade deadline, when they, instead of going for Juan Soto, which a lot of people wanted them to do, I was one of them too, because it would have been cool. It would just been a cool thing to say, we got Juan Soto on our team. Would it necessarily have made the Cardinals that much better of a team? Not really, because that wasn't really their issue. Their issue was starting pitching, and they went out and they got Jose Quintana, which everybody was kind of, he's all right. He's having a decent year for the Pirates, but who's going to be that difference maker? And out of nowhere, the Yankees are like, you guys want this Jordan Montgomery guy? We're not going to need him in our playoff rotation, because they were already like, we're going to the playoffs. We're not going to start this guy. We'll ship him to you. You give us Bader, who's hurt and still hasn't played for the Yankees yet. And the Cardinals were like, okay, I guess we'll swing that deal. And it's been amazing for the Cardinals since.
That's the Cardinals so far have won the trade deadline. Now, I will say this. I thought the Cardinals were going to pull off the trade for Juan Soto. I said that on several Locked On podcasts, not just my own, but I was guest on some of them. And the acquisition of Montgomery, I thought was strange even when it happened, because I looked at the Yankees at the time. Yes, their pitching was very deep, but there was, first of all, you can't have enough starting pitching depth. But also, there's some of the players who are having career years. You think, well, maybe some of them will come back down to earth, which some of them certainly have. And we've seen that 15.5 game lead is now down to 6. The Yankees are going to go to Tampa Bay this weekend after losing. They went the entire month of August, and the Yankees won one series, a 2-game series with the Mets. They either lost every series or split every series, including against the embarrassing Angels, which goes to something that you were saying, trying to poo-poo about St. Louis. And that is, they played some bottom feeders and some tomato cans, but you have to beat them.
Right.
You have to win them. The Yankees split a series with Oakland and just lost a series in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And they let the Red Sox, who are not very good this year, beat them in a series too. So if you want to win, I mean, there have been instances where some of the troubles that San Francisco had with Colorado back in 1993 probably cost that 103-win team a division and maybe a pennant and a World Series title at Candlestick for Dusty and Barry Bonds. You have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And in so many ways, that's one of the things that made the Cardinals really successful. And for this month, and let me tell you, when people were talking about who won the trade deadline this, who won the trade deadline that, and everyone was salivating over San Diego. Right. Anyone thinking that St. Louis won the trade deadline that day, it seemed like a long shot. It was not a surefire bet by any stretch of your imagination. And if you're going to be making any bets, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, podcasts, including this year's opening week games. Is that this week? I don't know. I don't follow football. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and guess what? Even golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device and learn about the trends and action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. We're here with JD Hafron of Locked on Cardinals. I just want to talk a little bit today. The Cardinals and the Reds played a marathon. Let's just call it what it was. It was a marathon, and it was a weird game. It was a weird game. I was listening to a big chunk of this game at the dog park. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, I'm in Pasadena right now. It was 103 degrees today, which is hot, but even worse, that's 103 Celsius. That's how hot it was here. It was 103 degrees Celsius in Pasadena. That's a temperature joke. Yes. I know my audience. That joke was mainly for my mom, just so you know, for let the record show. But if you enjoyed that one,
hi, Mrs. Sully.
It's Dr.
Sully. I apologize.
Dr. Sully, thank you. And if you enjoyed that one, write hashtag Celsius Sully, okay, and then I'll know you enjoyed the joke. St. Louis beat Cincinnati, as well they should.
Right.
Albert Pujols did not hit a home run, but he did drive in a run. And you got a Goldschmidt got on base 3 times. Arenado got a big home run in the 4th inning. And Nootbaar. Boy, they got to be selling Newt bars pretty soon in St. Louis. What's in a Newt? What's in a Newt? You've obviously got nougat. It would have to be
some sort of nut, maybe an almond,
or an almond or a walnut, or I don't think it's a peanut one, and covered in chocolate. There you go. You get your Newt bar.
Yeah. That's it's a common joke that he's dealt with since he got brought up last year when he made his first appearance. Everybody's like, dude, if he ever becomes something, somebody's got to make this Newt bar, right? It's got to be somebody's going to take advantage of this. But yeah, he's been one of the pieces that the Cardinals were able to, when they traded Bader, when they moved him to the Yankees, which, as you mentioned earlier, was a shocking move because first off, he was hurt. And
he still wants
a hurt guy?
He still played as many games as I have for the Yankees,
right.
FYI.
Right. And so it was bizarre to hear that that's who the Yankees wanted, where we were talking and discussing about healthy men like Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson as somebody who might be moved for a bigger piece. And instead, it was Bader, and it opened up a hole where Carlson could shift from right field to center field, where he's been fantastic defensively, hardly a drop-off from Bader, who's a Gold Glover, by the way. And Nootbaar has gotten the start in right field ever since. He's been the main cog, and he's been fantastic.
JD, I'm just I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but
you're right.
It seems to me when you have a player who's on the injured list, you could have pried him loose for something other than a major league starting pitcher. I mean, anyway, okay, I digress. By the way, there was a hero in today's game that I don't want to have be swept in the undertow, and that was Andre Pallante, who came in through 3 innings of relief. And think about how hard that was. I believe all 3 innings were extra innings,
Extras,
where
yeah,
he
ghost runner innings.
starts with that stupid ghost runner on second base.
Yeah.
So that's every inning that he threw, except for the final inning. So 2 innings he threw where every pitch he threw, a ball hit into the gap or hit down the line, ends the game automatically, and maybe even like a blue pit wins it. He let up 1 unearned run, so he did let up a run when St. Louis, they scored 3 in the 12th or 13th.
Yeah.
Right. And then so Pallante, because they had basically run out of pitchers, and good for him for stretching it out. And I didn't want his I love it when a reliever has a long line, when a reliever gives multiple innings. There's something about that I find, pretty gutsy. And in a game where there are extra innings on the road, Pallante did get the win. A reliever's win is almost irrelevant in so many ways.
Yeah.
But this was a game where Quintana did not have his best stuff.
No.
But Hicks and Gallegos and Romero and there was one other pitcher.
Helsley.
Thank you, Helsley.
Yeah.
And sorry, I keep scratching my nose. But this was a game. This is a game why I think kind of illustrates what makes this team interesting for me. You have classic established Cardinals on the team. Pujols drives in a run. You have your superstars. Arenado hit the home run and a double. You have the young players like Nootbaar, and you have some people who maybe Cardinal fans know, but Pallante, I mean, if you're not a Cardinal fan, how the hell would you know who Pallante is?
Yeah,
and you have a great mixture of young, old, established, new, and everyone kind of picking each other up. And this is the type of teams you've seen win the World Series recently, at least in the full seasons, like Washington, who got off to a terrible start in 2019, but finished strong. Atlanta famously had a losing record at the trade deadline. They finished strong. That's one of the reasons why I really feel that this St. Louis team they're not going to, the Mets and the Dodgers are each going to win 100 games. And we all know that. And the Mets and the Dodgers have played, if this is an NLCS preview, it's a pretty thrilling preview because they've won, two pretty intense games. But I think St. Louis is going to upset one of those two teams because of there are not a lot of question marks on this team.
No, and one thing that you mentioned there that is dead on accurate is the way that they have been able to mix and match. Now, I want to remind everybody, too, who may not be familiar, our manager, Ali Marmol, rookie manager. The first year, they fired Mike Schilt, who had votes last year to be the NL Manager of the Year, and they fired.
He won it in 2019.
Yes,
he was the manager. 2019 was the Manager of the Year. 2021 is on LinkedIn getting his job. And if you're looking for, we don't have that read today. I thought we had a LinkedIn. If we had a LinkedIn read today, that would have been my perfect way to sneak that in.
810 million, including Mike Schilt. Go to LinkedIn.com.
Yes. I'm gonna like Mike. I'm gonna say connect Mike Schilt. That because he got that 17-game win streak in last September.
Last year.
Lest we forget, the Reds and the Padres were both playoff teams in September a year ago. Yeah. And the Reds are not anymore. But Schilt, why did they fire him? What the hell was going on there?
It ended up being, it never was released, like there was never an official, like these are the exact reasons why. But if you kind of connect the dots, Schilt was more of an old school manager, liked to go with his gut, go with his guys, wanted to do it the way he wanted to do it, where the front office was starting to think more analytical, which I know can be annoying for some of us who, we're used to the game where you're just like, I trust this guy and I have a feeling about him. And they didn't want him to do that anymore. And I think, and this is just my personal opinion, he said, no, that's not how I'm going to manage. I like it the way I do. I'm clearly winning. And they said, no, we think you could win more if you did it our way. And it became a kind of tug of war thing. And Schilt ended up losing because they can fire him whenever they wanted to, and that's what they did.
There's no debating that Marmol has done a wonderful job. And it's funny. Like, I don't follow the Cardinals as closely as you do, but it seems to me that there has been a lot of instances of playing the players maybe not based upon riding the proverbial hot hand. They don't strike me as a team that is so robotic and by the book that sometimes drives some people crazy. I think they've been a very exciting team, and I've seen them, going first to third on hits and doing stuff that you're not supposed to do. Do not take risks. Do not do anything that it might be exciting on the base path.
Right. Right.
And
that's not their thing. Yeah, that's just that was the thing. It's like, and I think last year that the way they lost to the Dodgers in the playoffs when he brings in Reyes. And everybody knew Reyes had not been the same pitcher since the All-Star break. He was an All-Star last year, but he was getting hammered left and right, home runs consistently. And Chris Taylor takes him yard, ends their season, and essentially ended Mike Shilt's run as the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, because it's a moment like that where I feel like upper management was like, what? No, don't bring him in. You have the data in front of you to not do that. And he did it anyway. And they were like, that's it. We're done. And Marmol was the bench coach. He'd been there a couple of years, younger. He's younger than a couple of the players on the team this year, clearly, like Pujols and Molina.
He's 14 years younger than I am. How does that make me feel?
And so he gets it. He was one of those guys that it was like, and I don't want to say like a yes guy, but he understood what upper management was asking. And he wants to be one of those managers where results are important. I'm not just going to stick with you because you've been my closer for the previous 2 months. If you haven't been good for the last 3 weeks, we're going to find somebody else and get the job done. I can't just ride you when you're in a bad rut. And he's been doing that just down the stretch here. 2 of their relief pitchers, Genesis Cabrera, who had been one of their best left-handed pitchers out of the bullpen all year, in the last month has been terrible. He's now in AAA. They sent him down. They were like, no, you're done. We can't do this. We're not going to watch you go out there and burn every time you come into a game and cost us what is a pennant race and a division race. Well, it's 6 games against over the Brewers right now, but we still got a month to go, and you can't blow games like that against Colorado and stuff that was happening. They just couldn't look at it and watch that anymore.
That's not sabermetrics. That's intelligence.
Right.
And that's also, and I've talked a lot about what I call the tyranny of the save. I'm not the most analytically smart person in the world. I sometimes, someone would rather watch the Magic show than know how they're shoving the doves up their sleeves. Mm-hmm. But there comes, it's always driven me crazy how managers manage to the save. That's what led Zach Britton sitting in the bullpen, and when every pitch met the ending of the Orioles season in 2015, and he still sat there when, as I said, if you're going to lose with your 8th best. But and there were so many times that you would see, well, we can't use, or the year before, people forget how Matt Williams handled his bullpen against San Francisco, where the Nationals were clearly better than the Giants. But he wouldn't use his best relievers in roles because he said, well, he's a 7th inning guy. He's an 8th inning guy. Yeah. So like, how about you bring in the guy when he's needed? And it was kind of an old school manager who kind of broke free of the tyranny of the save, in my opinion, which was when Francona was managing Cleveland, and he was using Andrew Miller whenever he's needed. And it was kind of like, hey, I don't give a damn about the save. The game could be on the line in the 5th. The game could be on the line in the 7th. And I've seen some of the Cardinal games that I've seen this year. They will use whether it's a Puente or a Wolford or someone like, they'll just use whoever's the best one who's at that point, instead of saying, well, is this a hold or a save? No, let's just use the bullpen the way you need it.
Yeah. Bottom line is to win the game. And if it's the highest pressure situation of the game, and it just so happens to be in the 7th inning instead of the 9th, but you need to get out of some tight situation, you want your best guy, and you can't just leave him in the bullpen hoping he gets a save opportunity in the 9th, which is something Marmol has not done this year. He just brought in Helsley the other night against the Braves when it was a situation that needed to be put out quickly, and it backfired. Actually, they hit a 3-run homer off him. Swanson got a hold of one, but he put his best guy in that spot, and of course, because it backfired, people got, oh my gosh, what's he doing? No, that's the right move. It is the right move. It just didn't work this time.
Was that the same game where Kenley Jansen melted down and wound up walking the winning run in, or was that the previous game?
This is the following game. This was Sunday Night Baseball that it happened.
Okay, yeah.
So Swanson hits the 3-run jack, and then the Cardinals are able to come back, tied up. Edman hits a solo homer, and then O'Neill gets a hold of one in the bottom of the 8th and ends up making it a 6-3 victory, which made it look worse than it was, but it was a 3-2 game going into that inning. So
that's true.
But that's one of the things that Ollie has been able to do, is he will move people around. And how you mentioned earlier where the mixing and matching, like he's got a left-handed lineup to face the righties, and then he will flip it, and everybody will play different positions. It'll be a whole new set of dudes coming in to face a left-handed pitcher the next day. And he's been able to finally find that balance, and it's finally come together here in the month of August, where now he really kind of knows he's finally got a leadoff hitter in Lars Nootbaar. He's got the rookie Brennan Donovan, who's hitting 300 against right-handers from the left side of the plate, tough at bats, and they get on in front of Goldschmidt, Arenado, and then you've got Pujols, who's doing the crazy stuff that he's doing so far since the All-Star break. O'Neill's heating up, and then when they flip it, and it's going to be a left-handed hitter, he switches everybody out. Like Nootbaar might start, but instead of batting leadoff, he's hitting ninth. And Carlson will be in center field instead because he hits better from the right side of the plate. He's a switch hitter, but he's not good as a left-handed hitter this year, so he doesn't play him. So the guy which is funny because the guy that ended up being the big piece, at least from what the reports were of why they didn't end up getting Juan Soto, is because they didn't want to trade Dylan Carlson. He's essentially become a platoon center fielder, but it's the best thing for the team. And all of the guys have gotten on board with it because the most important thing should be just winning ball games. It's not about your stats. It's not how many at-bats you get. It's how many wins your team gets. And everybody's bought in, and it's worked. In August, they're now 22-7 this month.
Okay, everyone, we're here with JD Hafron of Locked On Cardinals. Last thing I want to just talk about.
Sure.
This Cardinal team should be – look, I'm sure it's a huge deal in St. Louis right now. But it always drives me crazy that baseball has no idea how to market anything that isn't New York, Boston, or Los Angeles. It drives me banana boat time, or the Cubs for that matter. But like other leagues can have a huge following for a team that plays in Green Bay,
sure,
or San Antonio, and yet baseball doesn't know how to handle a franchise like the Cardinals with a deep history and tradition, and only the Yankees have a deeper roots in terms of eras of championship baseball, and of which they still have the same uniform. So you bring back the old clips of, Rogers Hornsby or the Gas House Gang or Bob Gibson or Stan Musial or Ozzie Smith or whatever great player. There's that sense of timelessness with the Cardinals. You also have superstars. Paul Goldschmidt has an outside chance to win the freaking Triple Crown this year. Yeah. Arenado is probably top 3 or 4 MVP. And speaking of timelessness, you still have Pujols, Molina, and Wainwright on the team. Mm-hmm. And you have a collection of young players, including a guy whose name is Nootbaar. This should be a great feel-good story for a lot of reasons. Again, I like it when superstars win championships. Yeah. But there's also a sense of, everyone was salivating over when the Yankees won again in 2009, and they still had Posada and Jeter and Pettit and Rivera on that team. Well, here we're having 3 key players from the 2006 team still here, still winning. I had to be careful how to phrase that because Wainwright was injured in 2011, and so I couldn't put the 2011 title with him. But go back to 2006. And here we are, nearly 20 years later and a chance to win another title. Yeah. I personally wish this was a bigger deal nationally. I don't care about ratings. I don't sell advertisements for Tide. That's not my job. I sell advertisements for BlueNile.com. If you're looking for the ring, if you're looking for a ring in memory. Oh wait, we don't have that ad read today. Do you wish it was a bigger deal, or do you not care?
I have been harping, I should say, for more attention for Goldschmidt because the NL Triple Crown hasn't been done since 1937 when Joe Medwick did it.
Another Cardinal.
Yeah, and it just hasn't gotten much attention at all. And honestly, I don't think the Cardinals care. Goldie's one of those guys that doesn't want the attention. Like, he doesn't do interviews. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. But he's doing something that's really, really special this year. And he's having a career year. And I don't think enough people were paying attention to it until Albert got hot. And then people started talking about, wait a minute, does he have a chance to get to 700? We're pretty sure he's going to pass A-Rod. We think that's going to happen. But 700, most of us thought from the outset that wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to get enough at bats. He's too slow now. He's too heavy. And then all of a sudden, the All-Star break happens. He gets treated like a god during the home run derby by all the other players. And I feel like that kind of made him feel better and got his confidence back up again, that this wasn't just some, hi, I'm old, saying goodbye to everybody type of thing, where he's like, I still have something to offer. These guys all look up to me. I better step my game up. And it's worked, because now he's hitting almost 280 with 15 home runs. And he's one of the best right-handed bats in the National League, if not Major League Baseball, against left-handed pitchers. Like, it's just been a really cool story. And that has started to get the attention on the Cardinals. And I think they are enjoying it to an extent, but at the same time, they don't mind laying low. I wouldn't say they're an exciting franchise, and I don't think they've ever tried to be. They just kind of go out and do their job. They're a Midwest type of team, you know? They're not flashy, and I don't think they care. I wish Goldie would get more attention, but as far as putting them in the upper echelon of the NL with the Dodgers and the Mets, and they don't need ESPN at their door to tell them they're good. They know. They're doing fine without him.
All right. Well, certainly have some great feel-good stories, unless you're a Cub fan.
True.
And I like things that create a sense of timelessness. Yeah. And to have yet another chapter of Cardinal history. Again, leading back, that you have Molina and Wainwright and Pujols still hanging around. Goldschmidt is kind of the new face to maybe put his face on the wall someday. But, going back to, so the stars from the previous two, but, then you go back to, I'll say McGuire. A lot of people bought McGuire's shirts. I don't see anyone returning that money. But like the 80s teams that I remember growing up watching, with Willie McGee and, Tom Worrell and Ozzie and Terry Pendleton and Jack Clark and for a while Keith Hernandez and friend of the podcast Lonnie Smith, and then going before that with Lou Brock and Kurt Flood and Bob Gibson and Orlando Cepeda, who had his probably best remembered for being a Giant, but had his best seasons with St. Lou,
won an MVP,
and then. Before that, Stan Musial and, all this.
The list goes on and on. Yeah.
Goes on. Slaughter, back to the Gas House Gang and Dizzy Dean and Pepper Martin. And then before that, Rogers Hornsby and Grover Cleveland Alexander. I mean, this is the fraternity that you belong to when you win a championship with St. Louis, similar to if you win a title with the Yankees, you join the DiMaggios and Ruths and the Gehrigs and the Mantles and the Reggie Jacksons and the Jeters and all of them. It's being able to do that. It's great when there's a title going for a team that hasn't won, but there's also something about making that connection. And I was just thinking, if there's one player, if the Cardinals could ever figure out to acquire him, would really make the difference, and that's Randy Arozarena, who I think would look great as a Cardinal.
It's a jerk move, Sully. Jerk move right there.
I'm sorry. It was.
You know who else would look good in a Cardinal uniform? Sandy Alcantara. He'd be a good one too. If they could ever figure out a way to get somebody
how do you get players like that? I always say that when I see Mookie Betts at home run, I say, God, if only the Red Sox could pick up someone like that. But,
right. No, I know. The one thing I can say about when they lose guys like this, it doesn't happen to them very often because they've gotten away with more trades on their side than they've lost them. I mean,
they stole Goldschmidt.
Goldschmidt and Arenado.
Yeah. So I guess maybe losing a Rosarena, that's almost like, okay, that's part of those trades. So
you think about the trades like for McGuire. You can't name a dude they gave up to get him. And look,
they don't even know who they are.
Jim Edmonds from the Angels for Kent Bottenfield. Really? That's what they gave up to get him? That's amazing. Scott Rowland. They brought him in. You know, they go out and get these guys.
Oh, that's right. Scott Rowland came from Philadelphia. That's right. That's right, guys.
They were able to get him. He got upset with Philly, and the Cardinals were like, sure, we'll take him. That's fine. He's awesome.
Well,
and they gave up nothing.
Yeah, trading J.D. Drew and getting Adam Wainwright.
Yeah. That was a trade that a lot of people were like, wait, we're getting rid of J.D. already? And
yes,
it ended up winning him a championship. He ended up getting, I think it was Michael King was the other, or one of the Ray King, the left-hander. And they got him, and then they got Wainwright, and it all worked out. They've made multiple trades over the years that have been huge. So they were due to lose one or two, and
fair enough. They owed the universe under Rosa.
Yeah.
Well, do you what? We owed the universe JD Hafron appearing on this podcast. So tell people where they can follow you.
You can follow me at JD Sports Radio on Twitter. And of course, for Locked On Cardinals, we're at LO_Cardinals on Twitter as well. And YouTube, Locked On Cardinals, we're there as well. If you're watching this right now, just scooch on over and subscribe, comment. We love having people, interact with us on there. We're always trying to build a community just so, baseball fans like Sully and I, the way we're talking about things right now, that's how we want it. In our chats and in our comments, and it's been really fun, man. I've really enjoyed joining the Locked On Network. It's been awesome to be able to talk about my favorite team, the Cardinals, who I grew up loving, and being able to do it now for everybody has been fantastic. And I hope I can join you more times moving forward as we get towards the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what? Even in the off season, I have a lot of fun doing the shows in the off season. We can talk a little bit about Cardinal memories, and who knows, maybe even some Cardinal trivia. But you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on both Twitter and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the 2022 World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals. I'm bringing up the main question: will they repeat next year? This has been Locked On MLB, Locked On St. Louis Cardinal crossover with JD Hafron. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.